Well, hello everyone. We got another hot topic to talk about today, and this one is especially for new instructors and new owners. Creating the perfect yellow belt, which is one of the biggest mistakes a beginner instructor or owner makes. I knew a guy in a small town. He taught everybody in the town martial arts, and it was a small town, a few thousand people, but sooner or later, from childhood or adult, people would take this class and they would last about 3 to 6 months. It took 9 months to get a yellow belt from him. And I talked to someone who had just tested for their yellow belt with this guy, and this person said, that was the hardest thing I ever did in my life. And the next day he quit. You know, what's the difference between a perfect yellow belt and a perfect green belt? So I remember at the end of one of our black belt tests, one of the ladies that was testing, she was, very much in shape. She was very skilled. She finished just dripping wet with sweat, which they should be at the end of a black belt test. And she was leaning over, panting. And she said, that was the hardest thing I've ever done in my life. And it just resonated with me. I don't think it was the test necessarily itself. It was the path of getting there. Being an adult, she was a mother, she was a professional, taking the time for all those years, and just the commitment that it takes to earn the black belt. Shouldn't be saying that as a beginner. You should be saying that the higher ends. What are some things we need to look out for? Hey, listen, if you like the content, please subscribe. Help us grow the channel. Share it with other fellow martial artists or business people. Some of these principles, when we're talking about something like this, is teaching, right? So these principles transfer to other businesses, but share with people you think that this information would help out. Number one, leave your ego at the door. Martial arts is supposed to teach respect and discipline, and if it's done right, it does. But so much of the time, in our martial arts community, there is a lot of ego. Do I hear an amen? I hear amens out there all over the place. And people get really concerned, especially when they're first starting out, how their beginners look. And it's natural. You're just starting. You want your first belt test to go great and people to go, wow. And if they're a great student, then they must be a great teacher, right? But you don't create a perfect yellow belt. That person is a beginner. They're not supposed to be good. Now, some people are naturally gifted. They just get it and they look really good when they're testing for their yellow belt. Most people are not. Understand that your belt system, that beginner is not the end product. That's just the beginning of the process of molding this person and teaching them the curriculum that you want for the end product, the black belt. And hopefully that's not the end. They still stay with you on through to mastership. But so many people have that ego. They want to have that perfect yellow belt. And I'm going to try to put in a caricature. And it's a round kick. It's a girl doing a round kick. And you just see the beginner. And then as she goes to the intermediate level, hey, it looks pretty good. And then a black belt, wow, that's awesome. And that's the way it's supposed to be. It's a graduating process, a maturation process. Understand that. Leave your ego at the door. And let me tell you something. Once you've been teaching for a little bit, once you have the 3 P's, puke, poop, and pee on the floor, you kind of check your ego a little bit because it's going to happen. Sooner or later it's going to happen. And there'll be blood too, all over the place. You'll have broken bones. Hey, we're in a great career field. Yeah. We have all that stuff that happens. Hopefully it doesn't happen all on the same day. But anyway, leave your ego at the door, okay? You can't be a good teacher if you have a lot of ego anyway. All right, you watch that. And you want your students to emulate you, and you don't want them to emulate some egotistical teacher. Number 2, understand that being a teacher, an instructor, you're a teacher. No matter what you're teaching, you're a servant to that student. It is your responsibility to bring out the best in that student and to make them perform better and to create these mindsets and these pieces of the puzzle that work together so that later on you can build on top of that, right? So it's that foundational process. Your greatest memories of being a martial arts instructor will be, correct me if I'm wrong, these people that it didn't come natural to them, and they persevered and they worked so much harder than the other person to get that stuff done. I remember one lady, she had anxiety issues big time, and she just had trouble being in a group class. I mean, she would stand there just shaking in a group class, and she persevered through all that. Wound up testing for a black belt. At the end of that black belt, when I was wrapping that belt around her, and she was a little short lady, I'm 6 foot, she jumped up and grabbed my neck and about, wrenched a knot in my back. But I pray to God I never get Alzheimer's, because I don't want to get Alzheimer's, but I want to keep that memory. That's just precious. Your greatest memories will come from those students that you were a servant to pull the best out of them so they can strive for their goals. Understand, number three, understand what the beginner class is supposed to be for. It's for the basics. Front kick, 4 parts. You have to have balance to do the 4 parts of a front kick. Protocols, how they come on the mat, how they enter the door, how they address the instructor, how they line up for class. The protocols to build the foundation so that as they go into higher belt levels, safety, respect, all those things are natural and come by habit for them. For example, here's a teaching tip for everyone. Have people on one side of the mat be the bad guy and people on the other side of the mat be the good guy. And if you do throws, you're throwing in one direction. That way people aren't throwing in opposite directions. That way you can use twice the room, twice the space. You're being more efficient with your space. So they need to know where to line up when we're doing those things. The beginner class is about structure, protocol. The more militaristic you can make the class, the more valuable it is. And teaching the basics, like that character I showed, that round kick, starting to learn the basics. I remember Grandmaster Jun Rhee one time said when he tests people for master level, he's still looking hard at the basics. And if some of these higher level techniques aren't right, it's because the basic part of that technique wasn't right. Jump spinning side kick. Well, the side kick needs to be good first, right? And then the jump's got to be good before you can add the jump spinning side kick. So understand what the class is for. And last, number 4, don't underestimate the impact that you have on your students. More than likely, the reason you wanted to go into this venture was to be able to have an impact on people in a positive way. And if they're only with you for a couple months and 3 months and they just get discouraged because you're setting such a high standard, they can't get to that yet, because it's going too, it's too fast. It's too soon for them to do that. Then you're going to lose them. And you won't have the time to be impactful to them. So you're not serving your purpose. Now, let me just say that, yeah, we should have high standards. But the tricky part, and this will be in another video, the tricky part to all that is, where do I put the standards and requirements in my curriculum? There should always be like a carrot where that person's looking forward to the next level, but then there's more required for that next level, so you're making that, the black belt should be something aspired to. So, number 1, leave your ego at the door. Number 2, understand what the beginner class is about. Number 3, the teacher is a servant. Number 4, make sure that you do not underestimate the impact you have on people, and you want to have that long term. All right, I hope this helps.